Crosspointskc podcast.
We're here with Orah and David.
So good to be here.
So good to be here today, you guys.
Wow. You know, I think that we have had such incredible conversations.
We really have.
Really.
Legitimately.
I think they've been a little bit different than our previous season. These
They
have been
have.
a little bit of a different kind of a flow, but
Yeah.
I've enjoyed them.
If you guys are new here, this is our 4th season.
Wow.
I think.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I think that's right.
Hard to believe, but this is season 4 and maybe our best yet.
Maybe. Okay, Orah, what's on the docket for today? What are we going to talk about today?
Today, I thought we should really go topical. We're going to talk about a big topic of discussion, which is mental health.
Whoa. Okay.
I know.
So that's really deep.
It is going to be a deep episode today. You guys prepare yourselves.
Yep.
But it is something that, like, we know so many people are struggling with. I mean, it's everywhere. We're all aware. We know people who have maybe harmed themselves or who have struggled.
It's a big deal, especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
The whole world went through a traumatic experience together. And the mental health has deteriorated so much. Even 4 years post-pandemic, it's still a massive deal.
It is.
And we're still suffering the consequences of that in our society.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's affected every part of our society.
And the reality is we have no idea how long those ripple effects will take place for.
Exactly.
So
it's almost like you think about like World War II and what those soldiers went through affected a whole generation.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not comparing the pandemic to World War II, but I'm just trying to say, like, it was an experience that the whole world had. And as a result of that, the ripple effects of that will continue to be felt for a long time to come.
Yeah.
And we can't just think that, oh, it's 4 years and we're done.
We're over it.
We're on the other side of it. You know, we don't get to the other side. As Americans, we want to get to the other side.
We really do.
And put on the smiley face and everything's all good.
Yeah.
But that's not reality.
It's not.
Yeah.
The reality is you're really scraping your way through and you're going to have to process and nobody knows what that's going to look like.
So we want to take some time to like chat through some of these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is our mental health episode.
Here we go.
Okay. So my question, David, is have you ever been to counseling before? Have you done any therapy?
Hey, Christians don't do counseling.
What?
What?
I'm not a Christian.
I'm totally kidding. I say that in jest, so please rewind and delete that from the whatever. No. It used to be a thing.
Yeah.
In the Christian world. If we go back, I call back to one of our earlier episodes about like the early part of the days of Full Faith Church of Love, you know, counseling was like a dirty word.
Yeah.
Right? The whole idea that I don't need counseling, I don't need therapy, I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. All I need is the Bible.
Yes.
The Bible says it, I believe it, and that settles it. Remember that?
Oh, totally.
Come on,
That's it. That's it.
So seriously, like that was a big deal. Like we don't need counselors or therapy. We don't need psychiatrists because we've got the Word of God and that's all we need.
Yeah.
And I think that we've come like as a community, a Christian community, not just here at Crosspoints, but kind of I think in America in particular, that we've realized that no, in fact, there is something to be said about psychologists. There's something to be said about therapists that study our emotions and our thoughts and our things, like in the way in which we think, and that it does help us.
Yeah.
And we need those things.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I have gone to a counselor. I've gone through therapy.
You have? Okay.
I have.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because I'm sure that was your next question.
I was going to say, like, how was it? Would you do it again?
How was it? So some of you may or may not know, but Heather and I, my wife, we went through a period of 15 years of infertility.
It's so long. Oh.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Where it wasn't like just like, oh, we'll have kids or we won't have kids and it doesn't really matter. No. We went through particularly 10 really hard years of like wanting desperately to have kids.
Yeah.
But not being able to have them. And it messes with your brain.
It's so hard. I can't,
And so I was a missions pastor. Heather's a nurse practitioner. You know, on the outside of things, we're a young couple. Everything seems to be going great for us. We're in Christian community. We're traveling the world. We're doing all of these things. But our inward lives are like just crushed.
Yeah.
And we're both firstborn. So we know how to put on a good face.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Like we can interact with people and they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like we're really good at that.
Totally.
But our lives were not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, they were good, but I mean, it was.
You were just dealing with something heavy.
Soul crushing. That's the only word I can use. Soul crushing, like not being able to get. And the problem is that the doctors couldn't. They couldn't assess what was wrong with us.
You didn't even have an answer. You weren't like, oh, well, it's because I'm this way or she's this way.
Because I have low motility or she's like whatever. They're like, you're both healthy, you're both fine. There's no reason why you shouldn't have kids.
Oh, that makes it so hard.
So that messes with your brain.
Yeah.
Because then you begin to think, well, is there something spiritual wrong with me? Mm-hmm. Did we do something wrong? And then you begin to go into your mind about the dark side.
Yeah.
Did I sin?
Oh, boy.
What did I do in my teenage years? Mm-hmm. What in our dating years? Did we go too far in certain things? Do you know what I'm saying? You just plays with your mind, and God, this is the judgment of God.
And you
don't believe that, but you start to think it.
Yes, you could even go to the point of wondering if your spouse is hiding something.
Ooh.
You know?
I never went there.
Good for you.
Yeah. But
you're just like, so there's a reason. Obviously, God doesn't want us to have kids. What is it?
Yeah.
You know?
And then you think, well, maybe God doesn't want us to have kids because we're not going to be good parents.
Oh, boy.
Or then the even crazy Christian thing, the rapture's coming. And so, you know, it's not good to have kids, or the end of the world is coming and there's going to be a war. And so we shouldn't have kids. You know, your mind just goes into the crazy places of life.
Did you feel like maybe like there was a curse? You guys have been cursed. That's the opposite of the blessing, you know? Be like, I was cursed.
I had that thought, you know, it's been 18 years now, and I can't remember all of the thoughts that I have. I'm sure I entertained that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I entertained that.
Because you're just like, hey, I'm a Christian, so what are my other options here?
Like, come on.
Yeah.
And so then we prayed.
Yeah.
And we prayed, and we prayed. Mm-hmm. And nothing happened. And I'm not feeling like God is speaking to us one way or the other.
Uh-oh.
And then all the Christian crazies came out.
Yeah.
You know what happens?
I'm nervous.
When you go through like traumatic events, or you go through something that people can't explain, the crazy people come out.
So true.
So we had people come up to Heather and say, oh, you need to try this deodorant because you're on the wrong deodorant.
Yep.
And if you just get on this deodorant, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to pop out those kids like there's no tomorrow.
Oh boy, it's all that aluminum in the deodorant.
Exactly, you got it, right? That's it. And then, have you confessed all your sins? Have you done all the things? What are you hiding? And
I just want to say something interesting about this is you now have strangers, and maybe not strangers, but people involved in your sex life and in your personal, in like the deepest, hardest part, they're now just just poking.
Oh yeah, here's a book.
Yeah.
Have you read this lately?
Oh my gosh.
I can laugh now. It was not a laughing. Like I wish I could take myself back from 20 years ago and bring him and sit him in right here, because I would be having a very different mindset.
Totally.
Like my affect of my face would be totally different as well.
Yeah.
Because I was, or I'll tell you this, I was depressed.
Yeah.
Like clinically depressed.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was clinically depressed is because I didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
I didn't know why we couldn't get pregnant. And number two, there was nothing I could do to change the situation.
Yeah.
I did everything I knew. I prayed, I fasted, I changed my diet, I changed from briefs to boxers. I mean, it's getting, I know, too much information, but like I did everything that I knew, and there was no answer from doctors, and there was no answer from God. And I'm just like, God, where are you?
Your hope was gone.
100%. And so I can't remember who gave us this book. We had a book, and it's called, and if you're struggling with infertility, like it's one of my most empathetic things that I have in my life, that and single moms. But there was a book that somebody was giving me, and so if you're struggling with infertility, it's called When Empty Arms Become a Heavy Burden.
Okay, wow, what a title.
And it's a powerful book about a couple that goes through like what infertility means for them and just the struggles mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And I highly recommend that book. And hey, Jennifer, just remind us, let's put that on our show notes. She's got it. Yeah. So we'll put that on there. I highly recommend that book if you're going through that or you know someone that's going through that. But let me take an aside real quick. If you know somebody that's going through infertility, don't just say, hey, here's a book.
I know, I'm like,
because don't do that.
Good
Don't do
point.
that. But
Good
if you have a
point.
good relationship with them, like you have the right to speak into their life and they've brought it up to you, like that would be a great book to give to somebody. Just be sensitive. Anyways,
Yes.
so I'll go back. So I'm depressed. I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure out what the situation is. I can't fix it. And I'm looking at my wife, and every single month she has her cycle, and it's a reminder every month.
So hard.
Every month.
I know.
It's like it's pain in your face every single month.
Yeah.
And it came to a breaking point for us. This is a long story,
No,
more
I'm
than
happy to
probably
hear it.
what you
I'm happy to
wanted,
hear
but it every month. And so it came to a point when Heather was like, we need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And being the godly husband that I was like, no, we don't need to talk to somebody. We're fine.
We have Jesus. What else do we need?
I'm a pastor. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm a glass half full guy. I've always been my entire life, always glass half full. And I was just like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. But it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't okay. And not just for 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 8 years or 9 years. I mean, 15 years. It was not okay.
So that's honestly, it's so many years. It's so hard. 15 times 12 cycles.
Right?
You know? Ouch.
I didn't even think about it like that.
You know?
It's a lot. And every single time, it was like my wife would go into sobs and crying and depression and not wanting to talk to anybody. She wouldn't want to go to church. And heaven forbid that we'd ever go to church on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Right?
Hardest
I mean,
day.
that's the worst day of the world to go. So she would
I
not
know.
come.
Oh,
And
my
legitimately,
gosh.
I would, it's fine. But I
Yes.
had to be there. I'm pastor on staff, right, at that
Yeah.
point. But yeah, you wouldn't want to be there because it's constantly in your face.
Barrage of
Horrible.
motherhood. Yeah.
So I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of the cycle had come again, and she's weeping in bed and crying, and I think I said something like, "Okay, it's time. Let's do something."
Yeah.
So she found somebody and set up an appointment for us.
Yeah.
To go talk to somebody, and it was this lady, and I'll never forget. Like, it was so awkward.
Yeah.
I had never done counseling before.
Oh, not even premarital counseling?
Well,
But that wasn't really like with a professional?
Premarital counseling was with people I knew because I was on staff at church.
Oh, that's funny.
So I've lived a very sheltered life, Orah.
Yeah.
Right? So we go in, and it's just awkward. And I don't know the person, but she's a believer. She's super kind, and she begins to talk to us. And I want to say this. Like, the awkwardness after 1 or 2 sessions went away.
Good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So because I believe in Christian therapy, I believe in Christian counseling. I will say this before I go deeper into my story, as an aside note. Please be careful about who you connect with in terms of counseling or therapy or a psychologist. And I mean this, like, I'm going to shout this from the rafters, like, please stay within the Christian world perspective with the counselor or a psychologist that you get involved with, because I have heard, seriously, over the last couple of years, some really crazy advice that's been given to people in our church that have had like serious issues that they're dealing with that I can't talk about, but and they tell me what some of their psychologists are telling them to do, and I'm just like, that's unbiblical. Like, don't do that. So it's important that you get the right people.
And you can filter those results when you're looking online. It is
100%.
very easy to find.
Very easy.
Especially in this area. But yeah.
Very easy to do that. So
Yeah.
just be careful. Don't just, luck of the draw, get anybody. Anyway,
Yes.
So we're sitting and we're having this conversation, and she begins to walk through with us how we're feeling, how I'm feeling. And she gets to a place, I'm going to get emotional for a second, where it was okay to grieve. It was okay to say, like, this is almost a death of a dream.
Yeah.
And I, remember having I'm not a super emotional person. I mean, we've talked about this in podcasts, that I don't, like, during sermons, I don't cry that often, but, like, yeah, it was an emotional moment where I felt like I had like a release of like, okay, life is not turning out the way I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And then for Heather to hear me say that was like healing for her as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I remember, right?
Yeah.
And then for her to be able to say the same things. Because we wouldn't say that to ourselves.
Right.
You wouldn't speak it out like, okay, like this is not what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it may not turn out to be the fairy tale ending that we think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so for her to give us permission to do that was hugely releasing for us. And it drew us closer together.
Yeah.
Like to be, okay, we're going to be okay with not being okay. And that's one thing I learned in therapy. Like, it's okay. You don't always have to be okay in life.
Yeah.
You don't have to put on the smiley face. You can grieve, you can be sad, you can be depressed, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be okay to not be okay. Just don't stay that way.
Yeah.
Right? Don't live in that forever. We were in it for 15 years. We had people come to our house and pray over our house. We had people pray over us. I mean, we were doing all the things.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't happening. And so that therapy helped us walk through the feelings that we were thinking and the spiritual thoughts that we were having, and helped us navigate through those waters. And
Yeah.
it made us a more loving couple and helped us to talk about things that we weren't talking about.
Yeah, I like that it's like even stimulating just connection between the two of you,
Right.
which I really, really
100%.
like.
Because it's easy to, like, when you're going through every month, she's angry and upset, and rightfully so, and there's nothing I can do about it. And it's like we don't even want to be together. And we want to have sex because we want to get pregnant, but we're
Yeah.
not having sex because it's a sexual love making. I'm
Totally.
so into you right now. It's like, this is a duty that I have to perform.
Totally.
And I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right? And that puts a whole nother thing that just like almost repels you against your partner.
Yeah.
And so that counseling brought us back together where we were having intimate conversation, not just being intimate with each other, but now having intimate conversations
Yeah.
with each other. And that's huge.
So really restoring your connection is
Correct.
like the biggest thing ever.
We could not have done that by ourselves.
Yeah.
No way. We needed someone to help us walk through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Proverbs have a lot to say about that in terms of counsel, that we need counsel, that we shouldn't kind of do things by ourselves, that we need outside opinions. And we see
Yeah.
this throughout Scripture. And so I just say, for us, it was a milestone moment.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
I like that story.
Now, I mean, we did kind of have the happy ending.
You did. That's
Not-
that's why I like the story.
I will.
Yeah.
And not all couples have this. So
I
it's almost
know.
like I'm reticent to share it. But I
Yeah.
mean, we did go through some in vitro process. You know, my wife's a nurse practitioner. We believe in medicine. We believe in doctors and all those things. There's lots of ethical conversations you can have about that. But man, our perspective was that if we're going to take Advil and medicine and we're going to go to the doctor for, you know, tonsils, eyes, and wear glasses, we're going to use whatever we can from a medical standpoint, right, to conceive. And so for us, we were able to conceive. We had twins. And on the spiritual side of things, they were born on our 15th wedding anniversary.
No,
our
I didn't
twin
know
boys.
that.
Did you not know
No,
that?
I didn't know
On
that.
our 15th wedding anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
On the day.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
So we have twin boys. They're awesome. And but yeah, that for me, that was like God's just kind of kiss of favor.
Yeah.
But again, I say that a little bit reticent because I know there's couples out there that'll be
know.
like, you know, I'm past my age of being able to have kids,
Yeah.
and they didn't have the fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
And I can't answer the question. I don't know why.
I know it's
Why
so
some have
hard.
kids and some don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
we knew.
Yeah.
I know.
So then we think about this idea of mental health and the stuff, the struggle that I went through. Think about for you, Orah, we kind of we're studying about this a little bit. What kind of, let's talk about the Bible. Let's bring in the Bible now. Because sometimes we think about like Christian characters or heroes, and we talk about all these people and they're full of faith and they
Yeah.
do great things and mighty exploits. But
Yeah.
really, there's a lot of mental health issues in Scripture.
There really are.
And I don't think people realize it, which
Yes.
I think I need to preach more. I think, you know
should.
what? Jennifer, help me remember. I'm going to preach a series on like the mental health in Scripture.
You totally should.
I have
That
not
could be
done
powerful.
that. I
Yeah.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead. So let's
Okay.
talk about this.
I have shared before that I've been reading the Psalms lately.
Yes.
And David, who sometimes I don't vibe with David because he makes a lot of poor decisions in life, and you just
Yeah.
really want him to make some better
I'm
decisions.
going to shake him
Yes,
sometimes.
yes.
But then he makes great decisions,
Yes.
and you're like, man, I could never have done that.
I know.
It's like highs.
He does have highs and lows.
Yeah.
This is true. So as I'm reading, I'm really, really realizing how much he suffered from depression.
Okay, yes.
And really how his mental state was not great.
Right.
And he kind of goes through a little bit of a formula in his Psalms where he shares his raw emotion of how he's feeling. He does a complaint.
Yep.
And a request.
Okay.
And then ends with an expression of praise or trust.
Okay.
He does this a lot over and over again as you read through the Psalms. It's really, really interesting.
So let's go through that again. So we slow down just for a little bit. So you're seeing a pattern in a lot of the Psalms.
Yeah.
Especially when he's pouring out his heart.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing that he does.
Raw emotion. This is
So
exactly
give me
how I'm feeling.
examples. Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed with groaning. I'm worn out.
Right.
It's
Okay.
things like that he says.
Sometimes he says, I'm angry, I'm upset,
Yes.
I'm frustrated.
Yes.
It's just like unfiltered David. Can I
Yes.
say it that way?
Yes,
So
uh-huh.
he starts there. Okay, and then
I have one Psalms,
good. Go ahead.
Psalm
Yeah.
6:6. He says,
Okay, go.
I'm worn out from my groaning.
Okay.
All night long I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears.
Yeah. That's how I felt through infertility, and I know
Yeah.
that's how my wife felt. It's
Yeah.
like you just cry yourself to sleep. There's nothing I can do.
I think I like this because you're seeing that he was chosen by God. There's no question when you're reading the Bible that God favors David.
Right.
Yet. Do you know what I mean?
Not everything went well.
Yes.
Not everything was great just because he had the favor of God.
Yes.
I mean, this is a life lesson for us that we see through Scripture. Just because you follow God doesn't mean that you tiptoe through the daisies.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
Okay.
David throughout the Psalms, as I'm reading it, he's begging
Yes.
God to help him.
Yeah.
He wants it so badly.
Correct.
And he'll do anything for it.
Right.
He's just surviving
Right.
at this point.
Right.
And then at the end.
Okay, hold it.
Yes.
So we talked about raw emotion, and then what's the next thing that you've seen? That pattern.
With the raw emotion, he usually comes in with a complaint. He's kind of like,
okay,
this
so
is
now
where I am.
he's like, God, this isn't fair,
Yes.
and here's why.
Psalm
Here we go.
13,
Okay.
how long, Lord, will you
Right.
forget me forever? How
Yeah.
long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart?
Ooh, wrestle with my thoughts.
I know.
So his brain is going.
Exactly.
So he's got raw emotion. He's just like, this isn't fair. Blah, 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 blah. I'm angry. I'm upset. And then he's like, okay, God, here's why. Like, this isn't, like, what did he say again? I'm wrestling with my thoughts.
And day after day I have sorrow in my heart. How
Yeah.
long will you hide your face from me?
Yeah, how long? Like, he's trying to, like,
He's like, I'm here. Where are you? How long are you going to hide from me? I need help.
it's good. Yeah,
I'm literally crying on the couch. Come and help me.
If you really are who you say you are, where are you?
Yes.
Okay, got
Yes.
it. Okay, so we have that.
Yes.
Okay.
And then after he pours out his feelings,
Okay.
he ends with this line.
Okay.
But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Poof.
And you know what? For me, when I hear these Psalms like this, it continues to remind me that David is such a man after God's own heart. Because despite all the crap, all the stuff, he forces his mind to come back to a place where he says, but God,
Yeah.
I'm going to trust you.
Yes.
I don't see you. I don't know what's going on,
Yes.
but I'm going to trust you anyway.
Yes.
And that's faith, and faith pleases God. We know
Yes,
that.
we do.
And it's hard. Like, it's easy to write that out there, but to live it, like when you're in infertility and every month you're going to say, okay, but God, I trust you. But God, I trust you.
Yeah.
Whether or not I get pregnant or not, but God, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to come to that conclusion. I wonder if that, like, writing that psalm was over a period of months or
I know.
years.
I
You know
wonder
what I'm
that
saying?
too.
Or
Yeah.
the first part is like the first 6 months. I'm angry at you, God, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I'm coming back to this. I'm going to write this again. Okay, God, I'm angry, but here's why I'm angry. And then, 2 years later, okay, but God, I trust you.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. We have no idea
We
how
don't
long.
know. We don't know.
And it's really interesting also that he does the trust. He like says God's character.
Yep.
And then also there's praise in there too.
Yeah, which that's even more over the top.
It's so hard to do when you're in the lows to be like, why am I praising him right now? Where is he? You know?
I'm sorry to keep bringing it up to the infertility thing, but for Heather and I, that was like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Was to worship God when your heart is broken.
You're in the worship room. They're singing songs about God is good, all the time.
Faithful. He speaks. He answers prayers.
Yes.
God's the God of miracles. He's the God of breakthrough.
He doesn't abandon.
Right. All of these things.
It's so hard.
So hard.
Yes.
And you have to sing those things in faith.
And sometimes you're singing them bitterly.
Yes.
But you're doing it. You're trying. It's the effort.
There is something to be said about forcing your body, your mouth, your mind to do things that you don't instinctively want to do.
Yeah.
That helps you, even though you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think of at the very end, he says, for he has been good to me.
Ooh.
So to me, that's like a callback. He's calling back to gratitude times. He's yanking sometimes because currently he's not being good to David.
Nope. That's right. Come on, keep going. That's
so
right.
he's harkening back to another time to say, he has been good to me. I know that this is true. It's not happening right now.
That's right.
But he has been good to me.
That's right.
Which is true. God had been good to him.
100%. So for us, then, we have to, as little as those moments may be, to reach back and say, but God, I know.
Pull them.
Do you know what I do now?
What do you do?
When because I have things in my own heart that I want to see, and I feel like God has told me, but I haven't seen those things come to fruition, I look at my kids and I say, but God, you answered.
Yeah.
I did that this past Sunday, but God, look at that. You answered. If you did that, I'm going to trust you for the future.
It's kind of cool you actually have like a visual of your testimony.
Right?
Just like living at your house.
Right, I do. And I got to be reminded of that and not take it for granted. Those boys, right? Like, okay, God, you're faithful. I know you. I don't see it right now, but I know you're faithful because look at that.
Yeah, so that's good.
So everybody needs to find that one thing that you can go back to and say, but I know, God, you did that. Even if it's just one thing.
Yeah. And it's funny, I do think a lot of it can be relational. For me, it's Phil, like where I think what a game changer it was for me and Phil.
Tell me about this. Like, so for you, like he was an answer.
Yeah, I just think that he's been so he's so stable. That's just such from my upbringing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, stability.
You needed the steadiness.
Yes. Okay. It is. It's amazing.
That's
it's
awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. So God, you were faithful to bring me a spouse that's steady. You know what I needed.
Yes.
And so when I get into a situation when I am frustrated, I'm going to say, God, but. It's good. I love it.
Yeah.
So find that one thing and call back to it. It's so good. Oh, I love this discussion. Continue. Let's keep going. I love this. Okay. Who else do we got?
So that was my bit, and then Hannah,
Okay, so tell everybody about Hannah.
Yes, Hannah. You kind of talked about her also semi-recently in a service. I think you did.
I did. Yep, not too long ago.
But she is longing for a baby.
Right.
And she's not having one.
Yeah.
She's barren.
It's the same situation.
Yes, and not
she's
only
weeping.
She's
right?
It's so sad. She goes to like basically like a church every year and like prays and begs for a baby.
Right.
And
not just like your normal kind of I'm sobbing off in the corner.
Yes, she's going all in year after year after year.
Right.
And she's surrounded by her husband's other wife who are having children.
Can you imagine that?
It's the worst. I feel so bad for her.
Oh my gosh. And the husband feels bad.
Yes.
The story is so resonates with me so much. Like, I understand the pain of that husband. It's not drawn out that much. It's all about Hannah.
Yes.
And rightfully so. Mm-hmm. But because I can identify,
yes.
I'm like, he gives her extra portions.
Mm-hmm.
He says you're my favorite. I mean, he's trying to love her as best as he can, but what can he do?
I know.
What can he's got other kids.
I know.
He can't ignore them.
He has a whole other wife.
Right? Yes. He got a whole other wife. And of course, she's a little bit much.
She is mocking Hannah, taunting her.
That is wrong.
You just want to punch her in the face.
The husband should have done something about that, right? But he doesn't. But he is trying to do other things.
Yes.
It's like he's passive aggressive. It's no more different than anybody today, let me tell you.
I know.
He's like, I don't want to upset the apple cart. I'm not going to say anything. But I'm thinking he's going, man, she should not be saying these things. But I'm going to give you extra portions because I just want you to know I love you.
Yes.
Okay, anyway, so continue with the story.
Anyways, so she's begging.
Right.
Eventually, spoiler alert, God answers.
Right.
But she's a great example of years-long process.
She is crying at the steps of the temple.
Yes.
Weeping. Mm-hmm. And the priest thinks she's drunk. That's how bad it is.
I just can't even imagine the level of weeping for somebody to be like, can you settle down and stop drinking so much alcohol? You're out of control.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it was her whole world.
Yeah, I imagine her just wrecked, like just heaving, wrecked.
Yeah.
And think of just which you can obviously think about, just the consistency of coming year after year.
Year after year.
And
always being reminded.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, it's so sad.
So sad.
It's so sad. That's in 1 Samuel, by the way. 1 Samuel 1.
God answers.
Yes.
He doesn't forget her.
I love that.
This is a theme in Scripture that God doesn't forget us. He doesn't forget you. He may not answer the way in which you want things to be answered, but he hasn't forgotten you. And we see this thread all throughout Scripture.
Yes.
Even when he kicks Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, he still hasn't forgot them.
Yes.
He's still with them.
I like that. We need to sing a song about that. I love the "you're not forgotten" idea. We all want to be seen in life. We need that so badly.
That's right.
And the idea that we could somehow internalize that God hasn't forgotten us,
Huge.
you know?
And he doesn't forget little Samuel.
Yeah.
Who she gives birth to.
Yes.
What a beautiful story. So crazy. Anyways,
Yes.
he becomes the prophet of God, and he hears God's voice, and he walks with God all the days of his life.
He's a big deal.
This mama should be proud of her
I
son,
know.
right?
I love
always
that.
think about that.
She
I wonder
birthed
how long
greatness.
she we don't hear anything else about her. She's got to give up her kid. She keeps going back and visiting year after year. But I just wonder.
That's the hardest part of that story. You just wish
Sorry.
she wouldn't have bargained.
Right.
You're like, don't bargain.
Don't bargain with
like,
God.
what are you doing?
Come on, God, I'm going to give it to you anyway.
I know.
Yeah. But you got to think she was so proud.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, that does
I
mama
know.
hearts good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on Elijah?
Yeah. So
Okay.
what came to my mind when we're thinking about mental health was the story of Elijah. Not Elisha, Elijah. Okay. And Elijah, let me give you the quick story. He pops out of nowhere and he's fighting against the so-called gods of Baal. And we have all of this like conflict, and there's this huge confrontation between the prophets of Baal and Elijah puts together this offering, and there's a drought going on, and he soaks the offering with water. If you guys are in church and you kind of heard this before, otherwise go back and listen.
This is 1 Kings 19.
Thank you. God answers by fire. It's a massive victory. All the prophets are killed, and then immediately after that, Jezebel. The woman Jezebel, who has some kind of spiritual line throughout Scripture as well, but Jezebel, the original, the OG
Jezebel.
The OG Jezebel says that I'm going to kill you today, and if I don't kill you today, let the gods, quote unquote, gods kill me. And Elijah has just seen the power of God.
Huge power. Literally
He
just
saw lightning come from heaven. God answered the prayer. The people of Israel fall on their faces and say, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God. I mean, it's massive.
Yes.
And when she says this, I'm going to have your head. I'm going to kill you today. He runs away.
I know.
I don't get
kind
this.
of wild that he does that.
He is scared out of his mind.
Yep.
And then he's depressed.
Yeah.
He runs away. He said, no one else is serving God. I'm the only one. And if you've heard any sermons about this, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not giving you anything new. But I'm the only one left. No one else is serving God. And he just goes off on this pity party.
He's feeling really lonely.
He spirals.
He does.
He's all by himself. And so here's what we find out in 1 Kings chapter 19. It says, Elijah heard this. He was afraid. He ran for his life, and he took his servant with him, and he walked a whole day into the desert. I mean, a whole day into the desert. Think about that. Talk about isolation. He ends up leaving his servant, and he continues on.
Yes.
So now he's isolated all by himself.
Completely alone.
He's running from
Jezebel.
He's running from the nation itself. And God's saying, listen, there's 750 other prophets that have not bowed their knees. What are you talking about? You're not all by yourself. But he continues to go on, even despite God speaking that to him. And he's isolated, alone. He's hungry. He's tired. He's finished. He's at the end of his rope.
Yeah, he asks to die.
Kill me now, he said. Just kill me now. And God
Which I think is
doesn't.
significant. We
Tell me about this.
Well,
Yeah,
we
go
think
ahead.
a lot of times, like, well, people will say things like suicide is the most selfish thing. I can't believe they just have this vibe about it, but it's in the Bible from a very holy person who right in this moment
who
is
was
like
mightily used of God.
Yes.
Mightily used.
Who wants to die
Who's
right
saying,
now.
just kill me.
Yes.
Like, I can't do this anymore.
Exactly.
The pressure is too great.
Yes.
And then God works through his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that God is so kind and patient and loving with him.
Me too.
And I think it's a way in which I would want people who are struggling with mental health issues to look at the life of Elijah and be able to say, this is how God wants to work with you.
Yeah.
What I love about this is that God begins to speak to him in the middle of the desert, and God doesn't say, okay, soldier, buck up.
Yes.
What's wrong with you? What more do you want me to do? I got 750 prophets. I sent the rain. I destroyed all the prophets of Baal. What more do you want?
I know.
God didn't say that. You know what God says? Go take a nap.
Rest. Yep.
Go take a nap.
Yeah.
I need you to rest. And then he doesn't say that. He says, I need you to drink. Here's some bread.
He gives him food and water.
It's very practical.
It's amazing.
I love it. It would be like God telling some of you that are struggling with some mental health issues, just, take a day off work.
Yeah. Yeah, good example.
I need you to go to a restaurant and let them serve you and get some good food.
Yeah, and just reset.
And then go home and take a nap. Maybe watch some Netflix.
Yeah.
Just relax. Call back too if you want to sponsor us.
Sponsor us,
there
Netflix.
We go.
Yeah.
But God is very practical. He
Love
sends
that.
an angel to come alongside. So there's this divine presence.
He's no longer lonely.
Exactly right, Orah. There's divine presence that comes alongside, that God knows this. And then at the very end, after he's fed and he's rested and he's had water to drink and he's had this divine presence of the angel, now he comes to a cave, and then it's the voice of God that speaks to him, which I think there's something significant to this. It's hard for us to hear God's voice, right, when we're going through the mental anguish.
Yeah.
When we're not rested and we haven't had the proper food and water and all those kind of things. God knew that he needed that in order to hear what God was calling him to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this so clearly to those of you that are struggling with that. You need to help yourself physically, which will also help yourself mentally, which will then help yourself spiritually. And those things all interact with each other. And we see this so clearly in 1 Kings 19.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard the phrase before that I love is that you can't think your way out of mental health.
Ooh, that's
You have
good.
to act your way. Like, it has to be an action.
That's right.
It's physical. Go on a walk.
That's good.
Do something physical. You're not going to think your way out of it. You
Yeah.
actually have to do something.
Yep.
And the movement will help your brain.
100%. That's so good.
Yeah.
What are some things maybe that you've done in your own life that have been practical when it comes to doing something maybe that you didn't want to do?
Yeah.
Right.
So I have shared before that I have had a lot of issues with depression.
Right.
I've
You've
had
been
a
very
lot of
open about that. Yeah.
I've had a lot of issues with anxiety. They were newer to me. I didn't grow up being depressed and anxious. That wasn't how I was. It's just after I started having kids, I had pretty severe postpartum depression.
This is interesting. So your pregnancies triggered like your emotional health issues.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
Yeah, for sure. It's something
interesting.
happened where my brain switched. It realized it could be depressed and it loved it. It wanted to live in that for the rest of our lives.
Was it the cycle of going down, or were you just like, I'm in a dark place and I want to stay here?
Yeah, I know that with postpartum, I was so overwhelmed all the time. I started with feeling just a sense of complete overwhelm.
Like, help me, because I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
I've never had. What do you mean, like overwhelmed? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like being a mom, or like all the stuff you had to do?
It was definitely like people depending on you when maybe you're not sleeping or you're not doing anything. Okay. And on top of that, my kids had some like pretty big health scares where. I have 3 kids. 2 of them have almost died when they were below 1 year old.
Wow.
There were just some really big health things that just made me so anxious. And so you have no idea what you're doing. They give you a child. Okay. You're hoping for the best.
It's really true.
I don't have a foundation in my upbringing for being the best parent.
Got
So
it.
it was a lot of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And
You didn't feel like you had any control,
I had no control.
right? Okay.
And I think also like watching your kids almost die is very
Oh.
triggering.
100. How could it not be?
Yeah.
How could it not be?
So I think that maybe made me spiral significantly. My
Okay.
anxiety really started going. And what happened to me overall is like if my health goes downhill, which
Yeah.
it has and can,
Sure.
and on top of like one of my kids having to have a surgery, one of my Kawasaki's disease, there were just some things where I completely stopped sleeping.
Oh, that's not good. Now
Yeah.
you're not getting the rest.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
that's like a big, I just wasn't doing it anymore. Months of no sleeping.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you. Like in your moments of depression with your mental health that you were
Mm-hmm.
struggling with, you're talking about this isn't just like a week or two.
No, I wish.
Well, because
Yeah.
some people think that,
Yes,
right? Like,
yes.
are we talking? You would have bouts where, like you said,
Yeah.
months.
Oh, yeah. I mean, months of no sleeping. I mean, I would stay up. I was watching action movies to keep my mind busy. I had to do so many things to just completely my mind had to stay so busy for me to not just get completely overwhelmed with the darkness.
Wow.
I like romance. That's who I am as a
You
person.
are a Hallmark woman,
Yes,
right
I love
there.
Hallmark. I'm watching like blood and guts,
Ooh,
like just
really?
ripping arms out, war movies, stuff that I never watch because it's so distracting to my brain.
Really?
Yeah, I'm doing 3 puzzles a day, just constantly puzzling, staying up all night, moving my
Wow,
hand. I mean, I
Orah.
was doing everything I could think of to cope.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
It was just so overwhelming.
Let me ask you this. What was your husband doing? Again, I'm thinking
Yeah.
it from like, his perspective. How does he
He was
handle
trying
that?
so hard. He was trying to stay up with me, saying like,
right.
okay, maybe that'll
Okay.
help if you're
Yeah,
not by
'cause
yourself.
I don't want you to be
yes,
isolated.
and remember that he's a really good sleeper.
Yes, call back
Big
to the
thing for
last
him,
one.
yes.
I love
So he was trying to stay up with me, and I'm going to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm going to all these doctors. I'm trying medication. I'm trying anti-anxiety things. Also I have kids that I'm in charge of every day.
You're doing it all by yourself.
Yes.
And you're a stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
So it wasn't just like you were shipping the kids out to some,
Yeah. Yeah.
to daycare or something like that. So you've got all the kids at home, and you're kind of struggling with this stuff.
Yes.
Bill's trying to be with you and isolate, but
Yes.
but it's like something that you kind of have to fight on your own, right?
Yeah,
Is that how that
it was
works?
really hard, and even just like the medication could give you a bunch of
Okay.
side effects
Yeah.
where you're just like now you're a zombie to
Right.
get through the day.
Okay.
It was a really really hard time to handle,
I can't imagine.
and it's really interesting because to me it's so pivotal in my life. I remember it so easily. I'm so happy that I'm not in that level of darkness anymore.
Okay, yeah.
But
yeah.
it's interesting because I think often when I convey or tell anybody, people will say like, "You seemed fine to me. I had no idea."
So you were able to have some kind of put on the smiley face.
Yeah, which I think is just really important. I want to be clear that like I was not fine.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But you just have no idea.
Wow.
You just have no clue what somebody's really going through at night in their house
No,
with
you
it's just
you really don't.
It's just different.
Did you notice, was there a pattern for your postpartum? Was it like, okay, it lasted for 9 months, or
Yeah.
that it just continued because you've had 3 kids?
I've had 3 kids.
So,
yeah.
like,
I did poorly after my second child,
Okay.
and I said, I'm not having any more kids.
Okay,
that was awful.
you were done.
I was
Okay,
done.
got it.
And then I felt very strongly that God was urging me to have a 3rd child,
Really?
which I
Okay.
felt could only be God because I would never do it.
that is so interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you were done at 2.
I was
but
hard
you
done
felt
at 2.
God say, no. I
Yes,
really
you're
want you to have
not
another
done. I
one."
really want you to have another kid.
did
One of
not
the
know
only,
that.
I don't feel like huge urgings from God.
No,
so
no,
that's
right.
that was an obvious one to both Phil and I.
Wow. Okay.
So that was just really different. And by the time I was going to that 3rd, I was out of the depression from my
So
second.
you knew what you were going to be going into.
Yes.
And so it was a bigger decision for
Yes.
you. It's like almost like I'm making the decision that I know that I'm going to be depressed and it's going to be hard for me.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was so prayerful. I just felt like if I'm going to have a 3rd kid, God must know that I'm not going to be depressed after this 3rd kid.
Oh, wow.
Like, and I did
You
different.
had that mindset.
Yes.
Really?
I felt like, well, he's not going to have me do this
He's
because
gonna
I
let
would
me.
never go through that again.
If he's asking me to do this?
Yes, I must be fine after the next
Wow.
one.
Okay. And then
That was not the case.
the case. Wow.
That was not the case at all. And it was really, honestly, really hard for me with God. I felt very frustrated with him that he would ever put me through that again.
Betrayed almost,
yes.
right?
I'm
You're
like,
pouring
why
out
did you
your
have me do
complaint
this?
to God, just like you were saying. This is not fair. Raw emotion.
Yes.
A raw, new mom.
And,
you know,
he could have me not be depressed, just to be clear.
He 100% could.
He could heal me.
Yeah.
He could do all these things. I'm begging, I'm praying.
Yeah.
I have all my friends praying. I have you praying.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, I need help. Somebody help me.
You were very open about it.
And I struggled again after my third kid.
Wow.
Way worse than after my second kid.
Oh my.
So it was a hard time for me and God, for me and myself. Just, you're just like, why did he have me do this?
Okay, so why don't you tell us, like, okay, what did you do in the midst of that besides given the raw emotion?
Yes.
What were concrete things that you did?
Yeah.
Not that you're necessarily on the other side of all of this stuff, but like what things helped?
Yes.
So we're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
You talked about prayer. We've done the spiritual things, right? We've talked about prayer, and we've talked about having people around you to encourage you and asking for prayer and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But what are the other things that you did that were noticeably helpful?
I was going to a therapist. I was medicated, so I'm going to say that.
Okay. Did the medication help in some regard for you?
It did. I think it was really necessary. I've had some friends who've also gone through some pretty severe postpartum, and I would encourage you sooner rather than later to get on medication.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of a snowball. So if you can hop on it early, it's a better scenario.
That is so true. Yeah. Okay.
So there are side effects, and I think everybody is so nervous about the side effects. I had them, so I'm not saying you're not going to have any side effects. Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it.
There are side effects.
Yeah.
And they suck.
Right.
I want to be clear about that.
Okay.
They do. But you will be alive.
Okay.
You won't, you'll get out of bed.
Right.
You're going to get through the stage that you need to, and then you can hopefully get off them if you're able to.
Yeah.
I'm no longer on them, but it was great when I needed them.
You needed
Glad
it,
I did
and
it
it was helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a big one. So therapy.
Got it. Medication. Top two.
Top two.
Maybe prayer, and then we
Yeah.
the spiritual side of things. I'm just kidding. Okay.
And then we've talked before that I did gratitude diaries.
Yes, we've talked about that already.
We've done it before, so I'm not going to touch on that. You can go back to that.
Okay.
Yoga. I started doing yoga, moving your body. That's again.
So the stretching and the reaching out and all, and kind of like trying to clear your mind.
Yes, a lot of times.
Not in an Eastern mysticism. Let's just talk about all that kind of stuff. But it's not what you. That's
not
not what she means. She means stretching.
Stretching with music on.
There we go. Okay, I just want to be clear. Okay.
I think something interesting is that a lot of people are like, "Go work out. That's going to help you." It didn't. I did not get any dopamine from working out.
Okay. Yep.
I was too depressed for that. It didn't do anything. And then you would have the pressure of working out, and you were thinking, I'm going to feel so good after my workout, and you don't, and that makes it worse.
Got it. Okay.
So yoga is a really good low pressure. You get some movement, and you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I just went for a mile and a half run, and I'm not happy at all. You know what I mean? So it's a really good option.
Okay, got that.
Okay. Meditation. For me, this means breath work. It might mean something different to other people.
Okay.
Breath work, it means, for me, learning a lot about just taking slow breaths in and slow breaths out. I do the guided meditation on the Calm app is what I use.
Calm, yep.
But it did help me a lot, especially as I was filled with anxiety.
I like that.
You're so nice.
You're intentionally slowing yourself down.
Yes.
And as a culture, we don't do that enough.
Yes.
We really don't.
Yeah, it's so
I love that.
helpful. I try to encourage so many people to do it because I think it's made me a better Christian. I can stay silent longer.
That's good.
I can sit longer just with that tool. It's helped a lot.
I could not agree any more with that.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I still do it.
Okay, good.
And then something that I did was productivity timers. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but it helps so much.
Whoa, back the truck up. A productivity timer?
Yes.
Literally, I do not know what you're talking about.
Great.
I've never heard this.
So part of the thing with depression, you feel so worthless. Why am I here? I'm not contributing to doing anything.
Society
yes.
and whatever. Okay.
But with a productivity timer, you can set a 15-minute timer and just do something around your house. Do the dishes.
So this is not some special timer. This is whatever
I just
timer.
set a timer on my phone.
Did you just create this term, productivity
I don't know,
timer?
did
I? Is this an Orah thing? No, I'm legitimately asking.
I don't know if I made it up.
It's not a TikTok thing.
I've not seen it. I don't have TikTok, but no, I have not seen it.
We're gonna copyright this.
I know the Orah's productivity timer. Just you will start to
Okay,
feel
what do you
better
do?
about yourself that you got something done. Because a lot of
Okay.
times at the end of the day, you'll be like, I didn't even do anything.
Okay.
I feel so bad.
Sorry, 15 minutes.
15
click the
minutes.
button. What do you do
Yes.
for 15 minutes?
Dishes.
Dishes.
Make your bed. And you
Okay.
can do a few. You can do a self-care timer where you actually
Okay.
shower if you're having a really hard time with
okay.
that.
Got
You're
it.
just like, and you're like, I'm just gonna give myself 5 minutes.
Okay.
A lot of times when you're cleaning and you do the 15-minute productivity timer, you'll go for 20. You'll be like, I'm
Really?
just gonna finish it.
Just
I'm already in the middle. Yes.
Because I've already taken the step.
Yes, and
And
it'll
taking the
give you
step
a
is
little bit
important.
of a hit of feeling like, okay, I got some dopamine. I feel like I'm helping my family.
What
I
do you
feel
do
like
after
I'm
the
whatever.
15 minutes?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, folks. That's good.
You can sit back on the couch and know that you tried.
Right. And then do you do you have the goal of saying, okay, I'm going to do 4 15-minute productivity? Is it
I
not
worked my
back-
way up.
Okay.
I started with 15 minutes.
That's
and
all you
very
did
clear,
all
very
day
clear.
long. Which
you're
is fine.
You're
That's
just
all right.
yes.
I'm not
Excuse
judging
me.
you.
Can you believe this guy?
Sorry. I apologize.
No, what you do all day long
I
is
judged you hard, didn't I?
survive. Is
Sorry,
what you're
my
doing all
bad.
day long.
It's my bad.
You have
yes.
kids. You're just
Let's go back
making
to
it through.
Elijah.
Yes.
Eat, sleep,
Exactly.
and drink some good water.
Yes, you're
Okay.
not in the thriving state. You're just trying to get through.
Got
you know.
it. Okay.
So you do. I started at 15
You did
minutes.
one time. Good
yes.
job.
But at this point in life now, I do an hour.
Okay,
I'll be like, okay, hour in my day. At least at the very beginning of my day,
Okay.
I had a productive hour. If the rest of my day moves and turns,
I'm gonna be okay
I'm
with that.
fine.
Okay,
I've
that's good.
already
I like
done what.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
I didn't know if you were breaking up the segment, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna do 15 minutes at the beginning of the day and 15 minutes at the end.
Yeah.
But you just increased the timer.
I have, yes.
Okay, that makes
but you
sense.
do whatever works for you. You try
do
it. You do you.
Okay.
I'm a millennial. Can you
Okay.
tell? You do you.
We are well aware. Orah is a millennial. I love it. Okay.
So that's a really big one.
Okay.
We've talked about cold therapy a little bit on a previous podcast.
Yes, the previous one.
Yes,
I love
and
that.
I started doing cold therapy for my mental health
Right.
to see if I can improve it.
You were specific about this. That,
Yes.
Like, I'm buying this for my mental health.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is.
Was it worth the money?
Yeah, it's not that expensive. It depends on who you are. But I think the chest freezer, I got it on Black
How much?
Friday for $275 or something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
not
You know,
bad.
it's really not that
I
bad.
mean, seriously, yeah.
It's not that bad.
Come on,
And then,
whatever.
but
Okay.
then there's like the plug thing that regulates the temperature. That's probably $30.
Okay.
And then you have to buy all the sealant, and that depends on how expensive you want to go on
So,
those. So
300, 350.
Yes,
you're
it's
in.
very doable.
Okay, that's
It's
great.
very doable.
I mean, you're buying running shoes for $100.
yeah,
I mean,
like it's
come
not
on,
that
right?
bad.
So
I
there we
say
go.
it's reasonable. Somebody's like, what?
I know.
$350?
I know. That's crazy. So much money. Okay, but for you, that was worth it, and
It
you
was
do
worth
it.
it.
And you're still doing it? You
Yeah.
said how many times a week do you do it?
About 3, yeah.
That's a lot of-
3 times a
that's
week.
A lot of cold plunges.
It helps so much, and especially I might have a day. My mental health is so much better than it was.
Okay.
I'm not in the lows that I
you
was
were before.
but I still have ups and downs.
Yeah. Okay. Of
Not
course.
not the extreme valleys, but I
Yeah.
do still have ups and downs.
Sure.
So,
You know your body. You know
Yes.
yourself, and you're just like, this is kind of where I am and who I am right now.
It is.
And so I'm going to be proactive.
Yes.
Right. Doing the things that I know that's going to help me maintain my mental health.
Yeah. I'm trying to rewire my brain. My
So
goal
good.
is that I can rewire my brain and it won't even remember that it can choose depression.
That's
you know,
good.
it's
That's
learned
good.
that now. I'm
Yeah.
trying to rewire it. But in the meantime, I use all these coping mechanisms.
No, I think
to-
it's good because sometimes we want to go, I just want to hit the finish line and I want to be done with depression and it's all over.
Yeah,
And it's
I
done.
wish. I wish.
But I think what you're saying is that, hey, I know I have a propensity towards this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue to do the things that I know that help regulate, that help that maintain a good mental health.
Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
it's
I
like
read,
a runner that stays. Sorry.
No, go
it's
ahead.
like a runner that stays in shape, right? You stop running and you instantly begin to lose all the muscle memory. You begin to lose all
Yeah.
of the cardio, strength that you've built up. All that it begins to go away right away.
Yes.
So you have to maintain the running schedule.
Yes.
In order to do that. It's the same with mental health.
Same.
I'm the same,
And I
right?
do think that once you're in touch with your mental health, if you've felt your feelings, it's hard to not recognize those. I do think a lot of people have ups and downs. They don't recognize those. They don't touch those. They don't realize it.
Okay.
But nobody goes their whole life without getting a cold.
Right.
You're going to, people have mental health issues. That's not it. You just need to expect, your brain needs to be the type of brain that says, I have a cold, but I know I'm going to get better.
That's good.
And that's what happens with depression. You need to be like, it's okay that I'm sad today.
Right.
People get sad. I'm not
Yeah.
alone in that. People around me are
I
sad
love
right
that,
now,
Orah.
but I'm going to get better.
I like that.
It's a time, and I'm
It's a
going to come
time.
out of it.
It's like you said, it's like a cold, it's a sickness, it's a flu. Sometimes a cold lasts a couple of days and sometimes it lasts a couple weeks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But you're saying, hey, I'm going to treat it somehow.
Yes, and I think
I'm
the
not
big
going to
difference.
ignore it.
Yes.
Right? Hope it goes away.
Totally. And I think the
Good.
big difference in feeling the depression of the hopelessness of feeling like nothing's ever going to change, that's the worst. So just knowing that feeling of like, it's going to end. It's fine. I don't feel happiness. That's fine. But in a few days, I will.
Right.
You know?
Okay, that's good.
So that's good too.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. I read a book. Shocking.
What? The Bookstagram person? Orah?
Yes, this is called The Finnish Way.
Cute.
About Finland.
Like, not Finnish, like we're finishing, but like the Finland
way of life.
Finnish way.
And
what do they say?
They talk about some cold plunges in here.
No, they do not. Of course they do, right?
I know.
Finland?
I know.
Have you been to Finland?
I wish. Have you?
No, I've never been there.
Oh my goodness, I would love to do it.
Take the podcast on the road.
That'd be so cool.
Okay.
This is from a study, and this is a scientist saying this. Exposure to cold is known to activate the sympathetic nervous system and increase the blood level of beta endorphin and noradrenaline.
Wow.
Additionally, due to high density of cold receptors in the skin, a cold shower, throwback to another episode, is expected to send an overwhelming amount of electrical impulses from the nerve endings in your brain, which could result in antidepressive effects.
Which could. We're not certain.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not saying it totally does.
But it's affected you.
Yes, and it could. And when you're depressed, all you want is hope.
That's all you want is hope.
You're like, fine, I'll try it.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
Works for me. I love it. So I do cold therapy.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. Outdoor walks.
Yeah,
we've talked about
this
a lot.
It's still in awe of you. I am still in awe of you of the 365 days of walking.
I love it.
That's crazy. No, you're more now, right?
I'm way more now because I started.
No,
I don't. I wish I did.
You couldn't tell me like how many?
No.
Are you like 400? Are you like 100
For
days
sure.
plus? 500?
I mean,
500?
yeah. Or what are we in 2024?
Yeah, we're in the middle of 2024.
Well, yeah, I'm still going. So I'm still going.
Okay. My goodness, Orah.
I know.
Okay.
What
else you got
in
here?
this book?
Okay.
Evidence has been shown that city folk spend little time in nature or natural environments suffer from higher incidence of depression and anxiety and other mental illness. So
we need to get back to the garden.
Exactly.
Right, throwing the spiritual thing back in there.
We've got to get outside.
There is something about being outside. I love it. We've just built a new deck on the back of our house, and it is amazing.
Is it so nice?
It's so nice.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I told my wife yesterday, I was like, this was so worth every penny that we put into this. Because I find myself now just going out and just sitting.
Yes.
And being. And before I wouldn't, because we were living in the city, so to speak, right? And you wouldn't just go outside.
Totally.
But now that I have the space for it,
I love that.
It just clears your mental space in your brain. But you don't have to have a deck.
You don't.
You can go outside, and we have amazing parks in Kansas City. Trails.
We really do.
You don't realize how blessed we are compared to other cities.
Yes, you can fill something out on the Johnson County website for Parks and Rec, and they'll send you a map of all the parks and all the trails, and you can just start marking them off. Try them out. Try out new parks.
Good.
It's fun.
That could be a challenge.
Yeah.
Hit every trail in the Johnson County area.
It's cool.
There's a ton of trails. It's amazing. Yeah, I run a lot of them, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
I think that there's a lot of things. There's one more thing I want to mention that I do, and it's a little bit of a weirder one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, prepare yourself.
Brace yourselves.
Okay.
You haven't told me this,
I
so
know.
I have no idea where you're going.
This is called auto-suggestions.
Uh-oh.
And it is...
Sounds demonic. I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
It's
Am I going to have to,
yeah, really talk to me on the side after this.
Okay, yeah.
This is a little bit like... feels a little word of faithy. So you might not be into it, but it's this idea that you rewire your subconscious brain by saying affirmations.
Uh-oh, I'm worried already. Folks, I don't sponsor this.
I sponsor this. Do it. Okay.
Okay, tell me.
Okay.
I always want to be open.
Yes.
What are you
so
talking about?
you could say things like for one of mine that I say daily, my depression memories are growing dimmer and dimmer every day. I say it 20 times in a row.
What?
Quietly. You have to say it out loud. You can't just think it in your head.
Really?
And you're slowly rewiring your brain. So your subconscious will feel those. You won't think, I'm feeling depressed. I've always felt depressed. You'll start to be like, no, it's actually been a while since I felt that way. You're kind of you know, I kind of do it for my health because I have endometriosis.
Right,
you know, I just do some things to cut their affirmations, basically.
Affirmations. You're saying good stuff.
But if you look it up up online for science purposes. They call them auto-suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
Auto-suggestions. Mm-hmm. I was trying to bring it back to the Bible. I think about the scripture that says, think about things that are lovely and pure and beautiful and of a good report, right? We're supposed to think on these things. Paul talks about that.
Yes.
So it's kind of that thing, only you're not just thinking it, now you're saying
I know.
it.
I think of
Is
it in the
that
way
right?
of like what you were talking about in a previous episode too, of like the power of your words.
100%.
And so
right.
you're actually speaking life over yourself.
Okay.
You're speaking good mental health over
Okay.
yourself.
All right.
It takes time for that to work, and I know it seems kind of weird, but you should really try it because I promise you, it really does work.
Okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
I know.
That's what Orah's saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Auto-suggestion.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's kind of my toolkit.
That's what you got.
That's my
Hey,
toolkit.
that's a good arsenal of things that you can use.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of different opportunities for people that are maybe struggling with some mental health issues. We've given you lots of different things that you can try.
Yeah.
And, from the spiritual side of things, of prayer and reading the Word, to the life hacks that you have with cold plunges and gratitude diaries and stretching and meditation and going outside. I mean, there's so much. Just try to pick one or two and focus on them. And trying to do all of them.
I didn't add all of these at once.
Thank
I
you.
kind of
Right.
slowly, it was like, well, that's not doing enough. Let's get another one. That's not doing
Exactly.
enough. Let's get another one.
Yeah.
So, and over time it worked.
And I love your productivity.
Oh, thanks.
Timer.
Productivity timer.
Productivity.
Yeah.
What are you?
I
Productivity.
said productivity,
you
but
said,
you
said productivity too. Productivity. I think we should rewind it. She did say productivity. I said productivity.
I'm British. A productivity timer.
Anyway, whatever it is, I think that could be. I think you should copyright that. Like that could be a thing.
Yeah, I think that there's something about feeling like you accomplished something that just
100%.
helps you so much.
Get your brain up there saying, okay, I can feel good about myself.
Yes, well, at least I did that.
Okay, good.
That's pretty nice.
Okay, Orah, what else are we chatting about here?
Okay. One last person I wanted to bring up, as we've talked about biblical people.
Okay, going
I want
back
to talk
to the
about
Bible.
one of your favorite preachers.
Ooh.
And that would be Charles Spurgeon.
He is my all-time.
Is he?
I'm telling you, Orah, every time I read a sermon of his, pretty consistently, actually, I shouldn't say every time, that's a preacher kind of thing, but consistently, when I read his sermons from the late 1800s, I am moved by them.
Yes.
There is something powerful about his sermons.
He's good.
I'm telling you, he's really good. I have thought about doing a sermon series where I just re-preach 4 of his sermons.
What a fanboy.
But put them into modern day language.
That is hard.
You have to get, that's why people don't read him anymore, is because it's really hard to read his stuff.
It's like reading Shakespeare.
But I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. I think I might do that at some
It'd be
point.
really, really cool.
Just 4 weeks of like, this is not my stuff. I'm ripping off Spurgeon, but I'm doing it on purpose, and it's good.
I like it.
I'm afraid people are going to be like, bring back Spurgeon.
You're going to be like, wait a second.
This David guy. I want to hear more Spurgeon. Anyway, okay, so you're bringing me.
So Spurgeon, did you know that he suffered from depression?
I did know that.
You did know that.
Actually, quite a bit. He did.
Yes.
We haven't talked about this.
No, I didn't know you did that.
He struggled massively with depression. Huge.
I loved reading this. I want to say that when you struggle with depression, it's so lonely.
Yes.
It's hard to talk about.
Yep.
Secondly, you just don't want strangers coming up to you talking about it. It's
100%.
personal. It's a
very
hard
personal.
thing to talk about.
That's right.
So it becomes really isolating.
Yes.
And so I love the idea that this huge mega theologian.
Okay, yeah, and not just mega theologian, he had a mega church.
Yes.
In a day when there were very, very, very few mega churches. He had an orphanage that he started as well. I don't know if you knew that as well. Had an orphanage that he started, had a Bible college that he started, and he was writing books and commentaries all in the same time. He was like he was Joel Osteen on crack. Like, no, I'm not kidding. Like, his sermons were they hand wrote his sermons while he was preaching. They got it to the newspapers, and he was out all over the world.
Wow.
I mean, think about the pressure.
Wild.
We've talked about this. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, I like it.
I geek out on him, and he had so much pressure from everybody all the time.
Yes.
Anyway, what did you want?
He had a hard life with like disease. There was some trauma that occurred for him. Gout.
Bad gout.
It would take him out for a few months every year.
He would go to the south side of France.
As we all should.
As we should. And they had a place for him to go there and just to be by the seaside because he was in so much pain.
Don't you wish they prescribed that still? Come on.
Come on, go to the south of France.
I want to go to the seaside for my depression.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, he really struggled.
Yes. So I have a quote from him that I loved.
Okay.
He said, "My spirits were sunken so low that I could weep by the hour like a child, and yet I knew not what I was weeping for."
I have not heard that quote.
Oh, I love that
and
quote.
I've read so much of him.
Yeah.
Do you know where that came from?
I'll send you the website that I got
okay,
from
we'll
all of
put
his
it on
quotes.
the, Jennifer, make sure it gets on the podcast too, or the show notes.
Yeah.
Say that one more time because, man, I thought that was really good.
Oh, so good.
Okay.
My spirits were sunken so low that I could weep by the hour like a child, and yet I knew not what I was weeping for.
There's a man that's going through some dark nights
Right?
of the soul, right?
Oh, I just feel it so hard.
Wow, like you can identify with
Yes,
that, right?
I loved it. I just thought that is depression.
Wow.
You're so why am I upset? How come I feel this way? Why is it so hopeless? There's no reason.
I can't explain it.
And
Doesn't
I'm a
make sense.
Christian, and
Right.
I'm
and I know the answer, so
yes.
to speak. Yes.
You're like, and I'm a practicing Christian. He's a pastor.
He's a pastor, preacher, theologian.
Yes.
One of the most influential men of all of the 1800s
Yes.
in terms of Christianity. Crazy.
Yes.
And yet he's crying and doesn't know why.
Yes.
And he doesn't have the answer for it.
And what I like about this is I think that for me, and you've shared this too in your story, there's this feeling of like, should I be healed from this? Is
Yeah.
there something spiritually wrong? Am I getting
right.
spiritually attacked? Why is it like this?
Yeah.
And this to me brings me some level of solace and community of like knowing like, okay, like this is actually just life. This is what life is on earth, and it doesn't mean that demons are haunting me
That's
or
right.
that, you know what I mean?
No, 100%. I was
Yeah.
just going to go back to what you had said earlier. It's like depression sometimes is like a cold or a flu.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think of a cold or a flu as some demonic thing that's oppressing us.
Yeah.
Right? But when we look at mental health, that's where Christians tend to go.
Yeah.
It's some kind of oppression. And there may be that degree at some
Yeah.
point. I'm not going to discount that. But by and large, like, we are physical creatures and we have ups and downs emotionally. God has created us as emotional beings.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's okay to kind of be depressed. We just can't stay in those extremes.
Exactly.
Right? And
Yes.
so our body is going to be regulated all throughout seasons of life that we have.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going to be in a great state and sometimes not. And,
Yes.
And we got to recognize that.
Yeah.
And when we recognize that, then hopefully that keeps us from being too like concerned about those highs and lows.
Yes.
Because this is how God created us to be.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Right. Not saying that he created us to be depressed. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we do have fluctuations.
It is natural to have highs and lows.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's one more thing I wanted to say, and I
Okay.
debated saying this, but I think I really want to.
Okay, you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can't remember the exact Brene Brown quote, so maybe Jen can look it up. But
Okay.
she says something along the lines of like, share your story, but like be careful about who you're sharing it with.
Yes.
And
so good.
it's really so important, especially as you're saying it as well. People have good intent.
They do.
But it is really hard when there's been things that people have said to me that have been so hard
Yeah.
as I've struggled with
Right.
depression, where you feel like there's no winning, you know?
Yep.
Even the thing of like, well, you seem fine to me.
Yeah. Really?
It's really hard.
There's something wrong with
Yeah,
you?
I know.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how you feel.
I know.
And you're like,
Like,
oh my gosh. You
It's
do
so
not know.
hard.
Right.
So struggling with depression, I don't want you to feel alone. It's so good to reach out to somebody. It's helped me a lot.
That's good.
To even share stories with other moms who had severe postpartum depression has been a game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not feel isolated. So I want you to share.
Good.
But I do also want you to think about who you're sharing with. And
Yeah.
some people might not get it, and
Yeah.
it's fine to be selective.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We say that as we're talking on a podcast, then we're telling everybody. but I
Yeah.
just mean when you're sharing, I think it's important to share and also important to think about who you're sharing with.
Yeah. And I think to be clear, like, you're not sharing everything on this podcast.
Right.
There's a lot more behind Orah than what she's given us. And the same with me. I remember, too, when we were going through the infertility treatments, like, I would begin to talk with some people and realize, oh, I can't go there with them.
Yes.
And that's okay. I had
is
to
fine.
be okay with that. And then just turn the conversation. And then I'm like, okay, I can't do that with that person.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I still love them.
Yeah.
And other people, I'm like, no, I could go super deep. Like, oh my gosh, this is how I'm really feeling.
Yeah.
This sucks and I don't like it and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And they could handle that.
And I think something even that you could pray for, of course, pray for healing. Don't stop praying for that. But something you
100%.
could pray for is somebody in your corner.
Yes.
Pray for a friend.
An advocate,
Yes.
right?
Who can really,
Yep.
and like just somebody you can commiserate with.
That's right.
To me, that's been a a pretty big game changer.
100%. Exactly right.
Going back to community.
This has been so good, Orah.
We did it.
Thank you for being honest and open.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. That is not easy to do.
This was a hard one, you guys.
I'm telling you. So good, though. Hopefully you were encouraged by what we had to share, and you'll take some of those practical tips that Orah had as well. Like, I really encourage you to, again, choose one or two of them to start with and see what God might do. And hey, if you have like any success with some of those, share that with us.
Yeah.
And if you give us permission, we'll share it on the air. If not, we'll just keep it as a
feel good for ourselves.
We'll
It'll make us
rejoice
feel
with
good.
you.
Yeah,
How about
exactly.
that? So,
Totally.
so good.
Should we end with our segment?
Let's do it. Everybody's waiting for this segment anyways.
Oh
Come
my
on.
goodness, the no-name segment.
Here
we go.
Okay.
David, what is your favorite snack? Snack of choice?
Ooh, my favorite snack.
Yeah, are you a snack guy?
I'm not a big snack
You're
guy.
not?
I'm really not.
So you after dinner, you don't snack on anything?
No.
Wow.
I'll have maybe a dessert.
Okay.
Maybe. But I won't snack. Like, I'm not munching.
Wow.
I just don't do that.
Why do you think you don't do? Does that seem kind of weird?
I think I grew up in my like junior high and teenage years relatively poor, and we didn't have a lot of extra food, so I just got used to not.
You haven't flipped to be like, now the food's here,
now
I'm eating it.
I just have never gotten into that habit.
Wow.
But if I do snack on things, I'll snack on peanut M&Ms. I like a
Love
peanut
peanut
M&Ms.
M&Ms.
I mean,
Those are
that's
so
a good
good.
thing, right? And then I also like during Halloween.
Ooh, you're a
because we
Halloween
have-
candy guy, huh?
I like the Halloween candy. I'm a Halloween baby, birthday kind of thing,
okay,
right?
yeah.
So, but I like a good Mounds and Almond Joy.
I didn't see that coming.
I love the.
If I could have guessed 10 things, I
what
never
would
would
you,
have guessed
what,
that.
What would you have said?
I was going to say Reese's.
I should have asked you. I hate Reese's.
Because you like peanut M&Ms. I thought you might like a Reese's.
Isn't that crazy? No,
Yeah.
I like peanut M&Ms. I do not like Reese's. There's something
Wow.
about too much peanut butter that just really gets it for me.
Funny.
So there you go.
Almond Joys? What are they?
Both. I like
Okay.
Almond Joys and Mounds.
Oh, those are two separate things.
One has nuts, one doesn't. You remember the commercial?
I've never had either of those
That was
things.
before your time.
Yeah.
Almond Joy's got, let's see, Mounds. I can't remember what the commercial is now. It's terrible. Back in the day, you know what it is.
Nope, never heard of it.
It's Mounds got nuts. Almond Joy
Jen, do you know
doesn't.
this commercial?
Something like that. I can't pull it up. Okay,
She doesn't
Orah.
know either.
All right.
All right.
What's your favorite
My
snack
of choice? At night, very often, I have popcorn
Okay.
and dark chocolate.
Ooh.
I just sprinkle it all over. Sometimes it's dark chocolate, just like
Orah, I'm cracking
chocolate
up
chips.
right
I
now.
just sprinkle it all over.
Can I tell you how I'm cracking up I am?
Why?
It's because my wife does the same thing.
No.
We talk about
Heather!
opposites attracting. I'm telling you, she has last night popcorn, and she's got her tea, and she'll have dark chocolate.
I also have tea. There we go. Heather. Oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
This is crazy.
I had no idea.
It's
So
my
funny.
favorite snack.
That's
I
what you do,
love
the snack.
it.
Are you snacking through the day, or is it just at night?
If I can't buy a bag of chips, if I had a bag of chips, I
Really?
would just all day long open it and eat it.
You would
I
not.
love chips.
Really?
They're so good. I can't
Okay.
keep them in the house.
Okay.
So that's
Got
for
it.
myself. My kids want chips, and I say, sorry, I'll eat the whole bag.
No.
Sorry.
Wait till they're teenagers. That ain't gonna work.
I know. So I am a natural snacker.
Really?
But I'm a baker, so I like to bake things. So
okay.
I have to give them away because I like to eat them all.
Wow.
I'm an eater. I
You're
love
an
food.
eater. She's
Yeah.
an eater. You heard it here, folks. She's a snacker. I'm
I'm
not.
a snacker.
I'll do it every once in a while. Okay, well,
Thanks for joining us.
whew, that was enough for today. Guys, you're awesome. Don't forget to comment at podcast. No, I messed it up this time.
Oh my gosh, that felt so good.
Orah,
That
take it
felt
away.
so good.
Take it
Don't
away.
forget, you can always email us at podcast@crosspointskc.com.
Orah,
Boom!
you did it. Mic drop moment right there. I love it. All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.